conduct. Thank you. Is that one from someone from Unison headquarters there? Telling me we've been recorded. That this is not a normal part. This is about political decisions. And the thing that is glaring about this, and I'm sorry to say this, but you can't avoid it, is the level of collusion that has clearly gone on between elements within our own trade union and the employers. To me, it looks very much like there are people who wanted Paul Holmes out. They wanted him put out before he was president. They want him out even more now that he is president and after he has delivered the biggest challenge that ever has been seen to the existing machinery of our union, the best vote for a rank and file lay member in a general secretary election. So he's seen as a real threat by a lot of people. And I don't think you can avoid the conclusion that it's not just the employer we've been dealing with. And so I echo what Helen has said, because when I look at all that, it seems to me this is not about any measuring of evidence, any suggestion that Paul's done something wrong. This is a clear-cut political process to remove a very prominent figure in people inside the union movement, not just in our union, who are saying we need real change. And because of that, I fear the outcome today, because I don't think it's going to be based on justice. And I think, as always in these situations, even at this, as I say that, I hope for the best, as you always do at these moments, but we must prepare to organise for the worst, because people need to know that they cannot just do this to the president of the largest union in our country. And the first part of that, I think, will be that Paul must have the right, if the worst happens today, not just to stay in our union, but to retain his position as president, to retain all the elected positions he holds, to be able to fight effectively for his reinstatement. And I hope that everyone, not just in our union, but in the trade union, because I would say to anyone in our union, whatever you thought about it, think about this. If the president of our union can be dismissed in this way, what does it say to every other rep inside the union? What does it do to us? And so I'll ask him, think again. Think about what it does and stand for solidarity. The most basic slogan of the trade union movement is an injury to one is an injury to all. That could not be more true about Paul. An injury to Paul will hurt us all, and we have to stand by him. Thank you.
Thank you, John. I very much agree with that. Solidarity. I'd like to see more of that from the rest of the trade unions. Some of them have done it, but clearly some in Unison are not quite prepared. So we'll go to John Burgess next.
Solidarity greetings, everyone, from Barnet Depot. We've been down here where Paul has got a lot of support. People are absolutely appalled, and I don't often want to correct John McLaughlin, but you know, I just have to. It's he's been suspended for 2 years and 3 months. He was suspended at the end of November, and I like John, have been in the trade union movement for so long, and I've never ever had a case that lasted 2 years and 3 months. This is clearly a victimisation of a trade union rep. It's clearly targeting Paul Holmes for the good work that he's done for Kirklees Unison members. It's absolutely essential, not just in Unison, but across the trade union movement, that we are ready and there for him. And it's not just the tokenistic, same old load of that. We meaningfully organise and we step up. We do not cower to employers and to bureaucrats when one of our own is being treated this disgracefully. And I say this because for a while there, I thought that maybe Kirklees were wobbling a bit and maybe we're going to see sense. But I've got a feeling today, the way they kept this date and this time and venue to the last possible moment, it's clear to me, sadly, that somebody who's devoted his life to working class people as a trade unionist, 48 years working for Kirklees, that he should learn 48 years as a council worker, that he is being victimised and treated worse than anything that I could ever heard about in the trade union. It is a shameful event. And I look forward to the organisation, starting from Unison, but across the trade unions, calling for a national meeting to say enough is enough. We all know what's coming and is already coming for working class people, and that is a blatant, vicious attack by the Tories with no hope coming on the political scene except for in the trade union movement. Only us can do this, and so I will be, for one, been very public once I know the outcome about what my views are in support and what we need to do. So solidarity to Paul. I'm really sorry I couldn't be there. We've got to go in about 10 minutes to deal with a load of managers about paying our depot. Everybody wishes Paul the best of luck. Solidarity, everyone. Thank you very much.
Thank you, John. Solidarity with your struggles. Andrea Egan.
Thank you very much, Chair. My name's Andrea Egan. I'm a branch secretary at Bolton Local Government Branch, but in June last year, alongside Kath Owen, who's on this call, we were very proud to take the presidential positions alongside Paul Holmes when we won the elections, when we won the majority of the elections on the NEC last June. And what was a shock to us when we took up those positions in June 21 is that, and that's 18 months after Paul had been initially suspended, that there'd been very little progress or very little done 18 months in when we took up our positions. Now that tells its own story, doesn't it? Because many of us, as John Burgess has just alluded to, as activists in our branches, you know, we worked through COVID, and as a branch secretary, I took many cases on during COVID, some serious cases. They didn't just sit there in abeyance. So as I said, it was quite a shock but I think that tells its own story, that in June 21, very little progress had been made either by the council or by the union with its own internal investigations. And as I said, I will reiterate that I was very proud, and I stood by Paul then, and I stand by Paul now. You know, we're very proud, as I said, to stand beside him to become part of the presidential team. I think it's absolutely disgusting how he's been treated, but we all know why. When you become a threat to democracy, then they come for you. And that's what they've done for Paul, with Paul. And they did it, it started with the General Secretary elections way back. They knew he was a threat then, and that just continued. I think they've all been shocked though. I mean, I take a bit of a different view about this 9 weeks waiting to see, you know, to tell Paul the outcome of his hearing. Many things have happened. His suspension within Unison has lifted. And I think that's when we started to see a bit of a wobble with Kirklees. And I think it's through the solidarity shown by comrades on this call. You know, it shows being together, being solid and supporting comrades when they're being victimised. You know, in the face of the negativity that we've received by some who are trying to preserve you know, the way the union's been run for the last, you know, 28 years, it just demonstrates to me that he continues to be a threat, but it continues to demonstrate to me that the reason why we have to fight and fight together is 9 weeks. That tells me that's somebody that's wobbling. They've not been confident. You all know as activists, when your employer's confident, then they strike at the end of it and sack your member straight away, and they're quite ruthless about it. So, like I said, 9 weeks, I think they've wobbled, but the outcome will be known soon. But I just feel it's quite ironic, really, in the trade union movement that the word bullying, and I'm really, as a woman, I really, that word bullying is bandied about, and it's bandied about within our union. And it seems to be a common word bandied around when lay activists start to challenge what's going on. And so that's the message for us. Whatever happens today, I think we've got to remain solid and strong, and we have to move forward together. And if it does happen that they sack Paul, we can't be downhearted, we can't be downfaced, we rise stronger, and we battle stronger. But I'm not going to preempt that 9 o'clock outcome. I'm wishing him the absolute best. I can see comrades out on the line there supporting him. Solidarity to Paul, solidarity to all of you on the call, and let's really hope for a good outcome. But if it's not, we show our strength and we fight harder. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Andrea. And I echo that sentiment. We will be fighting no matter what the outcome is for the future of our union. So, John McDonnell next, please.
Thanks. Let me make it absolutely clear. I'm here in solidarity with Paul, and the reason I'm in solidarity with him is because I think what's happening is exactly as Andrea said. Whenever this has happened time and time again in the history of our movement, right back to the Toll Puddle Martyrs, to be honest, as soon as anyone raises their head and is effective representative of working class people, effective trade union representative, you know what happens. They become victimized. And that's what this is all about. This is an attempt to take out, literally to take out of action, one of our finest representatives of this union we've ever had. That's what this is about. And so our response today, no matter what the outcome, our response, straightforward, is solidarity. We stand with Paul Holmes, no matter what the outcome of this decision this morning. We're not going to stand by and allow any employer or anybody else they might be working with to target and victimize one of our reps. And it is especially effective, it's especially relevant to someone like Paul Holmes. I've known Paul over the years. Every time we've needed Paul in any way to represent our union, any time there's been solidarity needed, been a dispute from our union or with other unions in dispute, anytime there's been a campaign for justice, we've called for his support. He's been there 100%. He's one of the best examples I know of a trade union representative and a socialist, to be frank, someone who is firm in their views, strong in their principles, and courageous in the way that they speak up for the people that they represent. So today we know what this is all about. We know what they're trying to do. They're trying to undermine Paul. But in undermining Paul, they're trying to undermine our union as well. So we stand in solidarity and will, whatever the result today. What has been fantastic, though, I have to say, is when you talk to people about what's going on, they know. People aren't stupid. They know what's behind all this, and they know also who's implicated. So there's a lot more to come out about what's happened to Paul over this recent period. And what we'll be doing is standing in solidarity with him, exposing what's been going on in particular, but also making sure, actually, in standing with Paul, we send a message out to all employers and others that we'll never let this happen. We'll never let our members be victimized and there not being a strong reaction. We'll win throughout this. Whatever the result this morning, we'll win throughout this struggle. But I tell you, it makes me angry that they're targeting, as I say, one of our finest reps, and they're not going to get away with it. So solidarity to Paul Holmes. I'm proud to be associated with him, proud to be a member of the union with him, and also proud to call him a friend as well, a loyal friend. Solidarity.
Thank you very much, Joe. We'll move on to Kath Owen.
Good morning, everybody, and it's great to see so many people on the call, and also to see people who are on location. And I can we may need to go over to the Kirklees event in a moment. I just wanted to talk about Paul as a friend. And somebody I know personally. My name's Kath. I live and work in Leeds, and so Paul is someone I've known from my region in the union for a number of years, and someone who always encouraged me, despite his years and years of experience and knowledge. Always wanting to encourage newer people to come through. So when I joined the NEC as a young, relatively young activist, I found Paul to be the number one person, providing me with support, encouragement, never patronising, even though he knows more than anybody else, and such a kind person. So to hear, and that's genuinely felt, I'm not just saying that, and people who know Paul will know that's true. And so to hear that there's accusations of bullying, it really rings quite hollow. Of course, there has to be due process, but as others have said, in 2 years, this hasn't been resolved. It really makes you wonder what's going on. And I have to say, Paul's conduct throughout all of this that's been going on, the dignity in which he's conducted himself has been incredible, even though there's been really disgusting muckraking going on, and unsubstantiated comments and reports in the press and elsewhere, and he's held his head high. And I think that's a lesson for all of us who support him, that we do the same. We have to do the same. We keep the moral high ground. They go low, we go high, and others have said that on the call. So I'm relieved in some ways that we finally seem to be getting to an outcome today, but it'll take us on to the next stage of the campaign, whichever way it goes, because these matters are not resolved, and there'll be a reckoning about what has gone on, because no case in the union or in an employer should take this long. And I think that's where we all have to keep going and keep supporting and to back Paul up, because you know what? That is why he got that result in the General Secretary election. That is why he's been re-elected to the NEC of Unison time after time after time. And that is why this year he got the confidence and the support of the majority left NEC, the highest lay activist in the union, to be elected as our president. And that tells you that's about the man, that's about his character, and about how he conducts himself and his principles. But it's also about the solidarity he's built around him, and this campaign is just part of that. So let's get the outcome, and then let's get to the next stage. I'm so pleased and proud to be here. Wouldn't want to be anywhere else, and really want to hear from others today. And thank you everyone for your support and coming along today.
Thank you, Kath. If anybody else would like to speak, please just raise your hand and I'll bring you in. We've got quite a few messages of solidarity in the chat about Paul's character. He's been very encouraging of participation at all levels, solidarity from all around the country. So that's brilliant.
Yeah, just very quickly, Ancilera here in Reading. Whatever the outcome today, there is one practical way in which people can channel their anger and show solidarity with Paul, and that's to join our campaign and do things to help Time for Real Change service group election candidates to be elected. The branch nomination period ends next Friday, and then getting into sort of March, April, we'll be really campaigning around getting our candidates elected to the service group elections. It's really crucial. We've got loads and loads of really good candidates. So if you're looking for a way to channel your anger, do join us, whether that's sharing social media, getting more involved in the campaign, leafleting outside workplaces. We want everyone on board. So, you know, that's one way that people can practically help us to carry on with what we're doing. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Karen is just raised her hand, so I'll bring Karen in quickly and then we'll go to Tony and Sean.
Cheers. We're here in Huddersfield. I've just got Bernie Gallagher here. Do you want to say something online? You can repeat some of what you said.
Right. Yeah, Bernie Gallagher, retired member of Unison, former NEC member. Remember Paul when he first befriended me at the NEC, when I first got on the NEC following my 5 years suspension, being disciplined by my employer, disciplined by my trade union, so Paul and I are in good company, and just here supporting him, hoping he comes out of those doors shortly, and that he's now back working for Kirklees Council. If he's not, we'll still be in, we'll still be supporting Paul. Thanks.
Cheers, thanks very much. Anybody else want to say something? Want to say something back?
Yeah, well, I'm here. I'm a retired Unison member and nurse, and I'm here to support Paul because I've been a trade unionist all my life, and I know that Paul has been an absolutely fantastic trade unionist, and like many people, and probably many people here, he's given his life to it and life to his members. And trade unions are so important at the moment, and I think it's absolutely horrendous what has happened to Paul. Paul is being victimised because he's so effective, and he will fight for his members. And we need people like Paul being the president of our union. We need, people like Paul in all our branches, because we need fighting unions. I've just finished being a nurse. I was a nurse for 20 odd years, a mental health nurse, and I am absolutely so gutted about the state of the NHS, and we are absolutely losing it. I don't think people realise just the state of the NHS at the moment. The people who work in there do, but we know, how it has been degraded, how it is being set up to fail and so get sold off, and we desperately need it. We need people like Paul who stand up and fight. He's the president of our union, and I know he will fight. So thanks very much.
Thanks,
Bye.
Pat.
Go on. Hi, so I'm Jonathan. I'm in a Unison Environment Agency in Leeds, and I kind of joined the union during COVID, and it's been very inactive and stuff. But for me, kind of the height of being a member of the union in the last 2 years has been like the Time for Real Change campaign, which I think has been a really good step towards democratizing the union. And obviously Paul has played like a really important role in kind of leading that and organizing that, and really pushing that whole movement. And it's such an important one for the union to become this fighting union that we all wanted. So when Paul then also comes under attack from his employer and like the Unison bureaucracy hand in hand, it's kind of like essential that we all come out and support it. For Paul, but also for this campaign that we really need to succeed for the biggest union in the country to like actually act like that. But yeah, thank you very much.
Brilliant, thank you very much.
My name's Matthew Hanson. I'm a nurse. I work in Midland Manchester at the MRI. I'm a student in Unison. I've fought quite hard over the years. So I'm here in solidarity with Paul. And I think I'm here to indebtedness to Paul for his years of struggle. And I could not be here. Wasn't to be here for the other people that struggled in the past. Paul acknowledged that the people that have struggled in NUM, the miners and their great battle. We had the suffragettes, we had the print workers, we had the steel workers. But now we must defend Paul. It is so important that we stand our ground. A key trade unionist, a key fighter, we cannot let him be sacked. We cannot have a defeat here. We have to do everything we can. Even if the worst comes to the worst, we must defend and defend and defend him. And we must stand our ground, we must fight hard. We must take that back to our members, our branches, our community groups and friends. We must not let Paul down. We must really, really fight hard for him. Thanks.
Thanks, Matthew.
Right, yeah, my name's Pat Jones. I'm a retired member of Leeds branch. I joined, well, it was Nalgo when I joined it in about 41 years ago. And Leeds branch at that time wasn't the best fighting union branch. But this guy with a mop of black curly hair came over from Wakefield called Paul Holmes. And he such a principled socialist that he and one or two others managed to turn that branch around. And I've been so proud to be a member of Kirklees Unison, because I know that our branch would always be on the right side. Whenever anybody who's suffering oppression, be it being exploited at work, suffering from racist attacks, women, he has always 100% been there fighting that oppression. He's somebody we've been able to trust 100% as a branch secretary. And I mean, we've all got stories where the bosses have had a go at us. You know, I've been on picket lines when managers have complained because I've dared to picket and stop a manager's car and ask them not to go in. But I've been confident in knowing that Paul will back me. He stood up in union meetings and said, no one is attacking our members for standing up for the rights, picketing, supporting other members. And it's an absolute disgrace what's happened to Paul. And it's absolutely clear that it's an attack on a fighting left-wing branch. This is not about Paul Holmes. This is about attacks on a fighting branch.
and we have to stand, 100% behind Paul. I mean, I see Paul as a friend, but Paul's like not the most gregarious of people when it comes to social events. But actually, you don't have to be. What matters as a branch secretary is that you're there for your members. And he's such a hard worker for this branch. He has given his life to this union, and to treat him like this is absolutely despicable. And when Paul was branch secretary, not one of our members would have had to wait over 2 years to have a disciplinary heard and to get the results. He's been treated, I think it's emotional abuse, to be honest, to treat him that way, to have somebody hanging on for over 2 years, not knowing if they've got a job, knowing it was a real personal attack on Paul. He's a very private person, but it doesn't mean he doesn't hurt like the rest of us. And I'm so happy to see all these people here supporting Paul, and a big thank you to all the branches who've stuck with us.
Cheers, thanks. I'm on the Zoom call now. Did you say you want to say something?
Yeah, I'm John Dunn, former striking miner, here on behalf of the All Grieve Truth and Justice campaign, because we know the real meaning of solidarity. I've known Paul many years. He's a first-class socialist, a first-class fighter for his class and his members, and the fact that a so-called Labour Council are disciplining a trade unionist is absolutely disgusting. And we live by the maxim, if they come for one of us, they come for all of us. So whatever happens today, we've got to make life hell for these people. It cannot end here. Whether he's reinstated, whether he's sacked or not, these people are not fit to be part of the Labour movement. So solidarity, Paul Holmes, solidarity, every union member.
Brilliant, thanks very much, John. Dave, do you want to do?
Hi.
We're live on Zoom.
Oh, hi everyone. My name's David Hughes. I'm a branch officer in Birmingham Unison. I'm obviously here today supporting Paul Holmes, who I've known for a number of years. Paul is a brilliant working class activist, a fighter for his members. No wonder Kirklees want to get rid of him and victimise him. I have a view about trade unions, right? For your activists, you don't deserve in so much as we've got a declining number of activists, and one of our activists is under threat. We need to come no matter what the results. I know he is a credit to the union and a credit to the working class struggle.
Brilliant, thanks very much, Dave. I'll do a couple more and then we'll come back. You can come back to us later. Anybody want to say something?
Very briefly, Mick Calvert from Unite Community. There's a few of us here today because we see the attack on Paul as an attack on all of us. And if he does get the sack, we've got to really get mobilising, fighting from the bottom and forcing these union leadership who should be here, fighting to get them to actually do something for the membership, especially Paul, who's been under pressure for 26 months. So solidarity from Unite Community.
Okay. Anybody want to say anything to the Zoom meeting on there? No. Anybody want to say anything to the Zoom meeting? Go on.
Hi, my name's Steve Johnson. I'm a member of Unite Community in Leeds and Wakefield, and we're here to show solidarity with Paul because over the last 30 years, he's always shown solidarity with us. Any strike, any dispute, he would be there. So it's only right that in his time of trouble, we're here. It's an absolute disgrace that the council is suspending an active trade union at a time when the Tories are launching major attacks, not just on workers, but on local democracy. So for so-called Democrats to do this is outrageous. So we'll be here not only today, but we'll be here any subsequent attempt to victimise trade unionists in West Yorkshire. So, yeah, more power to Paul. He's a brilliant guy, and people should support everything over this dispute.
Brilliant, thank you very much. I'm Karen Rice and I'm here. We're outside the Don Smith Stadium. Paul went in about 8:45. His meeting we think starts at 9 o'clock and we're expecting him to come out and make a statement, whatever the outcome is of his disciplinary. We're here because we're outraged that, as people have said, a Labour council has attacked a trade unionist who has consistently stood by his members, who's fought them when they've been bullied, who's fought them when they're low paid, who's fought them over terms and conditions. There was 3 strike ballots pending when Paul was suspended, and I don't think that's a surprise. I think councils, even Labour councils, don't want real trade unionism anymore where we stand up for our members. And what's so disappointing that the president of our union, which is what Paul is, somebody who deserves to be our president because of the loyal stance that he's taken in defence of members, because of the militancy. And we have a Tory government that are determined to try and make workers pay. And it's only unions that are going to stand together and defeat them. And why, when Sharon Graham from Unite makes absolutely clear that she will stand 100% behind our reps, do we not see Christine McAnear, the Unison leader, doing the same with her reps? I think it's an absolute shame. Shame on the people who are not here from the leadership of our union, but we are determined to stand by Paul. We're determined to carry on the fight, and we'll come back to you when we have any further news or some more people who want to speak. So if you want to take some people from the floor in the meeting, we'll come back to you later. Okay?
Thank you, Karen, and everybody else that spoke at the rally. We'll move quickly to Tony Wright.
Morning, comrades. My name's Tony Wright. I'm the NEC member for Yorkshire and Humberside. Well done to everybody who's gone over to Huddersfield today. It's the first time I haven't been able to get there. Unfortunately, I've got a meeting shortly supporting members in my trade union role. I want to echo what Kath, our Vice President, said a few minutes ago. You will be hard pushed to find anybody more dedicated, friendly, welcoming than Paul. In support of his fellow trade unionists. I'm in my second term on the NEC. Paul is always there for me. He picks the phone up. If he's in another meeting, he'll come back to me. And he's done that for anybody. People who he's never met, he's there to support trade unionists. So I wanted to mention that. Paul and those of us who support him, you may have seen, have been demonised by certain people in the union over recent months. I'm not going to repeat what comrades have said. We know the issues. We know what we're here for today. But I'll tell you something. My support for Paul is unwavering, and my disgust in the employer and the lack of support he's had from the union is leaving a bad taste in my mouth, and it will do for a long time. One thing I will say that I don't think anybody's touched on is, there's a lot of muck to come out about this. I'm telling you now, the things that people, I don't know, only Paul knows, but some of the things I'm sure that have been going on have not come out yet. And in months and years to come, people will be shocked. We're already shocked by the way he's been treated, but when the whole truth comes out, I think we'll hang our heads in shame. We're all here together today supporting Paul, and we'll continue to do that. Solidarity from Barnsley. Cheers.
Thank you, Tony. Sean?
Thanks very much, Chair. Yeah, I'm Sean Hodges. I'm here bringing fullest solidarity to Paul Holmes, a good friend of us from Socialist Appeal. And I think people have touched on this actually, but you know, it's got to be repeated, right? Like what's coming down the line in local government is, and across the board really for working class people, is cuts and cuts. You know, and Kirklees, I mean, if somebody gave examples of what Kirklees has been cutting back on, I think it was the bus services, but you've seen it all over the place now, you know, hospices, care services, anything that they can jettison, they are doing so. And with that, we know, don't we, that it comes with a tax on trade unionists, a tax on shop stewards and reps. And Paul, of course, as perhaps one of the best records of any rep that that you could talk about, really. As people have said, the fact that people are here in such numbers today tells you that. And again, it comes down to this: if they can do it to the Unison president, you know, the president of the country's biggest union, arguably should be its most powerful as well, but certainly the country's biggest union. You know, if they can get rid of him, if they can do it to him, they can do it to anybody. So, you know, as Comrade said, a line in the sand's got to be drawn, you know, even if they sack him, which they may well do, you know, because as people have said, it is a political thing. It's not about what Paul has done or not done. You know, let's be honest, the pain in the arse he's been to them over the years, if they had anything on him, he'd be out the door long before 2 years had passed. Let's put it that way. But it is a case of setting that standard, and councils all over the country, employers all over the country, whether public or private, you can bet on that, are looking at this case and rubbing their hands and waiting to see what they can get away with. So it's got to be, you know, if it is the case that he is sacked, we hope not, but let's say the worst comes to pass and it is the case, you know, that's got to be the start, not the end, you know, and I'm glad to hear, you know, people are prepared for the fight, because a fight's, you know, exactly what we're going to need. But I think there's a note of hope in this, you know, why are they doing this to Paul now, you know, 2 years on, and why is it so urgent for them now in particular, even before when he was just a, you know, well, just a rep, you know, reps are important, but you know what I mean, as compared to the leader of this Time for Change movement, or arguably the figurehead of it. It's because they're terrified of what Unison could become. And that, I'm very sad to say, is where the collusion has to be taken into account as well. You know, these people, these employers are terrified of the idea that the country's biggest union, a sleeping giant, actually, could wake up and really give them something to worry about. If they think it's trouble now to sack Paul, my God, when Time for Real Change are done with this union, and when they have transformed it, you know, they'll have another thing coming. They'll think that this is a holiday. I'm telling you that now. And that's why, you know, it's in particular, it's despicable to see the lack of solidarity. And yes, I would have to say, some of these anonymous types on Twitter who are, you know, who knows who they are. Certainly it would be improper to speculate. But all these people happily throwing muck, you know, digging through the gutter, finding anything they can say, and never saying anything substantial, mind you, because if they said something substantial, you could argue against it and they'd be looking like fools. But that is what this is all about. It is the prevention of Unison turning into a fighting union, into a union that can flex its muscle, can tell these employers where to go, can give working class people confidence that no matter what happens to them, they will have the biggest union in the country at their backs, ready to drop everything and fight for them. You know, that's what it's about. And I have to say, you know, it's been wonderful to see all these messages and all these people, and it's got to be kept up. You know, we can't see this as the finish of it. It's only the end of the beginning. You know, forward to victory as far as I'm concerned, and solidarity at Paul Holmes.
Brilliantly said, Sean. Thank you very much. I just like to remind everybody, if you want to speak, just raise your hand and I'll bring you in time. We'll go to John Woods.
Hi everybody. Yes, and greetings and solidarity from Portsmouth. I'm the branch chair of Portsmouth City branch, and I'm proud our branch has consistently supported Paul and Time for Real Change because we absolutely need it. And you know, our hearts go out to Paul. He's had an appalling treatment by the Kirklees Council, and he hasn't had the support and that he deserves from our own union. It's disgusting. I mean, he absolutely deserves full support. I've been on the service group executive for local government in Unison for a few years, and I always found Paul absolutely brilliant, inspiring, helpful. His knowledge is encyclopedic. He, you know, if you have questions or you're thinking how to do something, you go to Paul and he give you advice, good advice, and based on experience and knowledge of what works and how to be a good trade union. So he's absolutely essential. And you think about it, in local government, we've just balloted our members in councils and schools and got an appallingly low turnout. It should be a wake-up call for our entire union. Why? The biggest union in the country shows, I think, a huge difference. There's no organisation. I was involved in phone banking for over the ballot. And, you know, the huge numbers of our members in our branch, you know, weren't really sure about what our union was doing, didn't get a clear lead, hadn't been contacted by the union. And I think that's responsibility lies with the previous leadership in our union. It's been sold as an insurance deal, you know, where you join and you only call it up if you get into trouble. It's never been built on an organising principle, which is what it should be. If we're going to deliver ballot results, and if we're going to stand up for our members and fight for our jobs, fight for pay, fight for conditions, fight for COVID safety, fight against racism, bullying and all the rest of it, you need workplace organisation. And actually, Paul Holmes is the person who has the most experience in our union and is absolutely essential for leading that fight back and changing our union. So absolutely, the whole union should be back behind, not just because it's an injustice and an appalling treatment of a brilliant trade unionist. It's also because we absolutely need him to rebuild and rearm our union to make it into a fighting union. So we've got a service group executive tomorrow afternoon. And I think if unfortunately it does go the way, if Paul is sacked, which obviously we all hope and you know, hope it doesn't come to that. But if it does, I think we need to have an emergency motion to our service group executive tomorrow, demanding full support for Paul, back him to the hilt and demand his immediate reinstatement and the full resources of the union to get behind him and actually back him. So solidarity, comrades, and then, you know, all the very best to Paul.
Okay, John, very well said. I totally agree with that. Shall we bring in George? Are you there, George? Maybe I've gone to the loo. Karen, you got anybody else that wants to speak?
I have indeed, yeah. We'll take you to Nick Ruff. Nick's from please. You can speak again. Come on, Nick.
Sorry, good morning, everyone. My name's Nick Ruff, elected branch chair, Curtis Unison, and elected unopposed in the new officer elections. We're still waiting for Paul to come out. We don't solidarity with Paul. Built by yourselves, built by the people here today. There must be 40 people on the lobby here at very short notice. From all over, from Birmingham, from Hull, from Leeds. It's been absolutely brilliant, and it's made the council really think about what they're doing in terms of trying to victimise the national president of our union. So keep up the solidarity. This may only be the beginning of the campaign, but we'll let people know as soon as we're here. Thank you.
Brilliant. Cheers. We'll take you over to some other people who said that they're happy to speak. Just hang on. Adrian.
Adrian Kennett. I'd just like to stay today to wish Paul solidarity, and you know, it's been supporting the campaign right through. Always have lots of our supporters in all, and let's see what happens today. And if the council make the error of sacking Paul, then we've got to build the campaign and you know, make sure that we get a good campaign going across the country to support Paul, because it's totally and utterly unacceptable attacking our president like this. So yeah, great to see you all. Thank you. Bye.
Cheers. Thanks very much, Adrian. We've got a couple of other people who said that they were happy to speak. Yeah.
Hi there, my name's John McDermott. I'm a steward, youngster steward for Bradford. I'm here to support Paul Holmes. I've known Paul Holmes for many, many years. He's a real died in the sort of blood, a trade union activist, socialist. And whatever's going on in that meeting room is a complete travesty. You know, Paul's not guilty of anything other than being a decent trade unionist. And that's why I'm stood here in the cold, in February, supporting him. And I'll be here next year, mate, if it takes it. Solidarity.
Cheers, thanks very much. Anybody else want to speak to on the Zoom meeting? Anyone want to have a go? Anyone want to speak on the Zoom meeting? Did it take you last time? Did it take you last time?
Yeah. Hi, I'm Kevin. I'm from Unite and also from Calderdale Trades Council. We're here because Paul represents ordinary union members everywhere, and he needs solidarity. He needs to be allowed to be free to represent his members, and the council needs to let him get on with his job and get off his back. Solidarity to Paul.
Thanks so much, Kev. And let's see if we can find anybody else who's prepared to have a chat. Oh, they're all going shy.
Hiya. Yes, I'm Roger Keeley. I'm a socialist. I'm retired NEU rep and on the local committee. If teachers knew about this, I don't think they even know about Paul, unfortunately. But people who do know that he's a magnificent trade unionist. I've been to all of these demonstrations, and there's tales people tell. He's a very impressive guy. I'd support him if he wasn't, but he is. He's a magnificent, and Unison needs him. We all need him. And that's precisely why they've gone for him. So, you know, thanks for being here. And thanks to everybody.
Thanks very much. And as I say, there are well over 40 people here now. We're here on a cold, windy February morning here in solidarity with Paul. I think that knocked him off. You will never get trade unionism to be effective if you don't stand by your union reps. It's not surprising that good union reps get attacked. Bad union reps will never be attacked, but good union reps that are doing their job, that are standing up for their members, who are organising their members to fight back for their own rights. They're the people who employers always hate. And we have to have that maxim that's been summed up by all the people here and all the people in the Zoom meeting and all the other people who support trade unions, is that we stand together. If you come for one of us, you come for all of us. And that's such a principle of trade unionism, which is why we're here today. We're here to say to Paul and to say to Kirklees Council, how dare you? How dare you have a go, right? You are a council, and yet everything that is alleged is stuff that he did as a trade unionist. And a Labour council somehow thinks you can attack a trade union is for being a trade unionist, and there's something fundamentally wrong, and that's why we're here today, and we will carry on doing whatever it takes in order to protect trade unionist jobs. We stand with Paul. He's the president of our union, he's the leader, and he will carry on being our leader whatever happens today. We are expecting him out at some point. There's no sign yet, but we are expecting him out. We don't expect this hearing to last forever, so we hope to get back to you fairly soon, but we'll come back to you in a bit. Cheers.
Thank you, Karen. So the Workers United will never be defeated. We all know that one quite well. So if Paul does come out while someone's speaking and Karen's got an update for us, we might just pop into Karen, just so you're aware. George, are you back and ready?
Yes, I am, Michael. Thanks very much, and apologies for earlier and for my late arrival. I'm George Binet. I was secretary of the Camden branch of Unison for just over 8 years and was frequently in contact with Paul during those years. He was invariably a source of sound advice and often inspiration. But I didn't want to focus so much on Paul's individual situation, but on the state of our union and what their treatment, their meaning the union supreme leadership's treatment of Paul says. John Woods, in his contribution earlier, referred to the disastrously low 14.5% turnout in the recent industrial action ballot across local government in England and Wales. That, I think, speaks volumes about the failure of our national leadership under Dave Prentice and now Christina McInerney to actually encourage the growth of organization at the base and oftentimes to, in effect, suppress development of effective trade unionism across what is the biggest service group in our union. And I would contrast it actually with what I've seen recently of Unite, which isn't to say that the election of Sharon Graham as their general secretary is somehow a magic bullet and that there aren't problems with bureaucracy and internal democracy in Unite. But I had the pleasure and privilege of attending a picket line and rally at the Royal London Hospital in Whitechapel in East London on Monday, and saw literally well over 100 strikers and supporters staging a very, very lively protest on an outsourced contract with Serco, the privatizing giant, which is ultimately led by Rupert Soames, who just happens to be the grandson of one Winston Churchill, a company that has benefited enormously from the Tories' largesse around the COVID pandemic. Serco had offered initially just over 1% to these workers. They increased that to 3%, supposedly in line with the NHS pay award. But of course, these are workers, largely Black and minority ethnic, who are in fact paid less than, by 10 to 12% less than NHS staff doing comparable roles. And there are a number of issues where their terms and conditions are grossly inferior. The demand ultimately, of course, is to bring these workers back into direct NHS employment. Unison actually has a membership within the Barts NHS Trust on this contract and was evidently trying to sell the 3% rise on the Serco workforce. You also had evidence of Unite's digital team there producing videos to actually highlight the strike to other Unite members. We just don't see this in Unison. When our members do come into struggle, there is so little in the way of publicity issued by Unison HQ, whether online or in print. And we see really quite pathetic support on the website for the Sandwell leisure services strike on an arm's length contract. This really has got to change. Otherwise, we are looking at workers in the public sector represented by Unison facing yet another dose of austerity, yet another dose of real pay cuts and very substantial job losses. And that's, in some sense, why this fight to ensure that Paul remains in employment and is fully supported as Unison's president and a long-standing leading branch secretary is so important. It goes beyond, obviously, the individual, and it goes beyond, frankly, the defense of trade union reps against victimization. I think it really is quite fundamental, this struggle to defend Paul around the future of the biggest public sector union in Britain and Europe. Thank you.
Thank you, George. Kath Lewis. So, Kath, you're on mute.
Thank you. I wanted to show my solidarity with Paul. I'm from Leicester. I'm the women's officer in the branch, and our branch is a really right-wing branch. And well, not the branch leadership is right-wing, but we actually nominated Paul in the election, and that was a real shock for everybody, including the leadership, who didn't expect that the other people on the branch exec would nominate Paul. But the reason he did is because when he came to the meeting, he spoke with integrity, he spoke with honesty, you had warmth, you had solidarity, you had everything that you wanted from a trade union, nothing of which I get from my branch at the moment, because my branch blames the members, it blames the people who won't be stewards, it blames ordinary working class people, and not the leadership for not actually giving us the tools to fight. As I said, Paul represents everything that I want out of Unison, and nothing that we're getting at the moment. I mean, the fact that the Black Members Conference was cancelled, just like that. Women's conference is actually going online, which means, God only knows. But I've just had an email saying that there's tomorrow is the deadline for emergency motions for Women's Conference. And if anybody wants to help me write an emergency motion in support of Paul, I'm happy to do that with other people that are attending the conference. But finally, I just want to say on a personal note, I can't do very much for lots of different reasons, but Paul took the time to ring me up and talk to me about what I could do. But the first thing he always asked was, how are you? And I think, that says everything about Paul. So solidarity to him, and let's hope that if it's not successful today and he doesn't win, we'll keep fighting until the end.
Thank you, Kev. Does anybody else wish to speak?
Folks, sorry, can you just have your attention a minute? Don't get too excited. I haven't got anything to announce, but I just thought it'd be decent to let people know where I think we are. As I said earlier, for those who weren't here when I spoke earlier, my name's Nick Ruff, was chair of Kirklees Unison and elected unopposed in the new elections. Thanking everyone for the solidarity. I think without the solidarity, without the campaign, that Paul would have probably been sacked a lot earlier than was planned. And thanks to the campaign, I think that's made the Labour Council think very seriously about the effect of sacking the National Union president for things that may or may not have taken place in the trade union office. Paul went in at 9 o'clock. As I said earlier, it's taken them 9 weeks to write what the decision is. It'll probably take 10 weeks to read it back to him. So we don't know when he's coming out. We appreciate people's solidarity and patience. And obviously, as the outcome of today's hearing will determine what we do next. And we will get that message out as quickly as possible. And I think if Paul is sacked, then we really need to ratchet it up several gears in terms of the defence of Paul Holmes and the victimisation of a leading trade unionist, not just in Kirklees, but in the country as a whole. As the National Unison president, that is one of the most highly positions of a lay member in the union, in the trade union movement in the Four Nations. So solidarity to Paul. Let's hope it goes his way today. But if it doesn't, we need to make everyone know we're ready to take on the battles ahead. Thank you everyone for coming. Obviously, we can't expect people to stand there all day. So what we're going to say, we're going to report back at 10 o'clock. So people can hang around at 10 o'clock, that'd be brilliant. But I appreciate you coming and thanks for your time.
Oh, thank you, Karen. We'll go to Ross.
Hiya. I haven't got my camera on because I'm sort of on the way to work. So yeah, this is all safe and legal, I promise you. So I'm a newly elected Labour Link branch officer for Pennine Care branch. I work in the NHS, and over the years, that's why I've got more involved with the Labour movement. Obviously, what we're seeing, I've nothing to add other than what people have said. Obviously, we're seeing something more serious, really. This isn't just political, which, you know, it's a travesty what happened to Jeremy Corbyn, obviously a travesty, but you tend to sort of expect it in that world. Now, I know trade unions are no different, but this is really serious. This is like an ordinary man, his job. It's just disgusting. And I think, again, I'm nothing new to add other than within the remit of what you can do. I think we've really got to change the tactics from one of being on the offensive, not the defensive. It's all very well talking about our own conduct and nobility when you can't do any much more. I get that. But I really think after this, if the worst comes to the worst, and anyway, we've really got to think about landing some punches somehow or other from being on a back foot position. Because they're absolutely ruthless, you know, we know that. So we've really got to hit them down. Anything we can do in any way, shape or form to be as awkward as possible and, you know, really hitting them first after this, because that is defensive action. We've got to, it's an absolute war, you know. So solidarity with Paul, and I'll get off the phone now. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Ross. Did anybody else want to come in on that? Don't all go shy me now. Okay. Arthur?
Hi, I'm Arthur Nicholl from branch co-chair of Dundee City Unison up in Scotland. I've been watching today's events and I've been following the story, and the thing that amazes me is we have Paul now has been newly elected, well, for some time now, but as still relatively recently the president of our union. I think the point is, and that's an important point. I mean, it sends an important message when employers think they can sack the president of a union and get away with it. But the point I want to make really is, even when Paul was just a branch secretary and an NEC member for many, many years, by the way, you know, the fact that there has been absolutely no publicity from Unison in support of Paul's campaign and against his victimisation, and you know, the leadership of Unison has changed recently. Hopefully, we'll see a change to that. But what we're seeing is obviously that new leadership struggling to gain some sort of control over the machinery of and the bureaucracy of the union in terms of being able to actually turn the decisions of the NEC and the actions of the NEC into publicity in terms of the position that's portrayed by the union publicly. And that's why it's tragic that we're seeing that there's no publicity, you know, there's no official publicity from Unison about Paul's campaign or supporting it. Now, there'll be some, I've no doubt, plenty of people in the union who don't agree with Paul, who don't like Paul, whatever it is. There are plenty of people in my union I don't like and disagree with, but I'll tell you what, if any one of them was being victimised by their employer, I'd be raising merry hell about trying to get solidarity for them, because we understand the basic principle. The enemy is the employer and the politicians, not people we disagree with in our union. And when it comes to people being victimised, be that, and that's why we become trade unionists. We're looking at, we don't go and give people a questionnaire to fill in when we go to represent it, to decide whether or not we like them or not before we take them to represent them and defend them against their employer. We know we do it on the basis of natural justice and solidarity. And in terms of that, you know, I would be standing with Paul whether I liked him. And so far as I know Paul and I've met him, the guy is a principled socialist who fights for his his members and his union, and to find that he has been left, you know, in official terms, high and dry by his union in terms of being for that period of time also suspended by the union for a good period of it until very recently, you know, has undermined his ability to fight and defend himself with his employer, which I think actually is on one level, you know, disgraceful, but on the other level is absolutely tragic, and will be, and it's sending a message to employers across the board that if you pick and choose who you attack, and you can get unions to turn a blind eye when people are being attacked. Well, the union isn't just the bureaucrats. The union is its members, and the members will not, and the activists will not turn a blind eye to comrades being victimised by their employer. And that's why I'm here showing solidarity today. And I think we always have to stand up for it. And I'll be there when somebody I hate in my union gets victimised, because it's solidarity and it's showing a popular front against the attacks of the union, because the employers know they attack one and they get away with it, they can move on to somebody else. We have to make sure at every point that they're told and they're disavowed of that position, and it's made clear that they can't attack anyone. An attack on one is an attack on us all, and we'll stand shoulder to shoulder with all our comrades in terms of fighting to defend trade union activism within employers up and down this country. Thanks.
Thank you, Arthur. He was getting plenty of support in the chat there for what he was saying. Does anybody else want to come in? Mary?
Hiya, sorry I haven't got my camera on. I did make my comments in the chat earlier on as well. I'm a health campaigner in the Northwest and a member of Save Liverpool Women's Hospital campaign, various other campaigns, including the Cheshire and Merseyside Collective campaign to stop integrated care systems and the health and care bill. And I'm also a member of Unite Community in Lancashire. The way Paul's been treated, the process of this case has been appalling. We've been over to support Paul several times, and each time we came, they added more days onto this case. And then, you know, when it came to announcing the decision, they kept delaying it. It's been appalling the way it's been treated, and it's got to be said, it is politically motivated. It was started at a time when Simon Stevens was restructuring the NHS into an American system. We were expecting a white paper, and campaigners were shouting from the rooftops about it. And that white paper came shortly after Paul was obviously suspended by his union and by the council. And you know, to take out a prominent left representative in the biggest health union at a time when it was under massive attack, and to distract that union from, or to distract members from opposing the restructuring of the NHS, the denationalisation of the NHS, the Americanisation and privatisation of the NHS. It's just unbelievable. So, you know, we've shown solidarity with Paul. I hope he wins today, but we'll continue to fight. And, you know, all over there are fires being lit, tackling, members being attacked, porters, cleaners, security staff being outsourced. And we're always tackling the fires rather than the root cause of the problem, which is the restructuring of the NHS, the outsourcing. So unless we get all the unions fighting to stop the loss of our NHS, we're going to be fighting fires all over the place and being distracted. And you can have wins here and there, but we should be expecting the leadership of the unions to be fighting the actual structural changes in the NHS, and to demand that it is, because it's been denationalised, it's been broken up into 42 separate businesses. It's no longer a national service. It's going to mean the deregulation of the professions and the loss of national collective bargaining. So that's why we need and so obviously this case has been politically motivated to stop the union from fighting that. And the leadership of the union has actually signed up to the transitional agreements to smooth the way for these integrated care systems. So it's like punching yourself in the face, isn't it? If you've already signed up to smooth that transition and not provide any opposition to that transition, then it's kind of, you know, being on a picket line with the security or cleaners or porters, they're being undermined by the fact that the leadership of the unions already signed up to smooth the way for this Americanization. So solidarity with Paul. All my best wishes, and I hope he wins today. Thanks.
Thank you, Mary. Just a point on that. Healthcare is quite a postcode lottery at the moment. So I work with people with vision loss, and there are other places in the country that do get funded for sort of magnification aids. And Lincolnshire County Council took that away several years ago. So it's quite apparent that there is a lack of a national health service if they can pick and choose on what they want to fund in the sake of attempting to save money through austerity cuts. And to be honest, it's just appalling. But did anybody else have any other points to raise? Or is there an update from Karen? Or we can sit in silence or sing a song. Did anybody know any good ones? Helen Davies, thank you.
Yeah, you're supposed to never have dead space, aren't you, on broadcasting? Look, I just again to reiterate that you know, people on this call will appreciate that branches have got AGMs. There's service group elections, a myriad of different ways in which we can express our solidarity for Paul. We've got Paul speaking at our AGM next week. So I would suggest if you've got an AGM coming up and you haven't got and you haven't already invited Paul, then please you know, speak to relevant people and try and get pressure on so that he is an invited speaker, because I think that gives him access straight away to, you know, quite a significant audience, irrespective of how the judgment goes. And I did put into the chat that there's an attack going on the NEC, whereby very senior staff members have instructed staff not to attend committee meetings, which is a bit similar. It's not the same as, but it is similar to the idea of a chief exec in the council telling staff not to, you know, minute committee meetings or help prepare the paperwork for committee meetings. So that gives you a bit of an idea about what's going on. And I think that these two things, the disappointment people have expressed about Unison's lack of solidarity as a whole with Paul, is also what we're seeing with the NEC. And there is a polarizing, I mean, it always was polarized, to be honest, but I think it is really, the tempo is picking up and the polarization's picking up. I think that is also an expression of, do you know, the gap between what is going on for people on the ground and what needs to happen, that is widening with every passing year. You know, the gap in terms of how the services are being cut, the pressure on workloads, the lack of pay, and then the action that's needed to reverse all of that just seems to get further away. And what we're trying to do on the NEC is create a framework whereby you know, the union is more accountable and more accessible to the members. So so that there is a real fight going on now in our union, and it's not just about, you know, personalities, it's not just about you know, tiny details. He said this, she principles. So I do invite people to get stuck in.
Paul is actually due out. We can actually see him. We think he's on his way down. And we're hoping that when he comes out, he'll be making a statement. So we're just gathering around now, waiting to hear, but it will be any minute now if people want to hang on the call. Obviously, it's a very serious moment where we find out what the result is going to be. And it's sort of, you know, fingers crossed. But whatever happens, we will be here. We will be defending trade unionism. We'll be defending our union president. We'll be defending the rights of people to fight attacks and resist the awful things that happen in our councils, in our health service, in our education, in all the public sector departments, and in the rest of where everybody works. We stand together, black and white. We stand together wherever we are across the country, and we say, all for one, one for all. Here is Paul now. He's coming out and he's due to make a statement.
I ain't going to say much. It's all right. I've been dismissed this morning.
Disgrace.
There'll be a legal process that take place. There'll be advice to take, and I'm not going to say much. I'll speak to anybody individually. I thank everybody for coming. It's just how it is. We are where we are today, and I'd like to thank everybody. All right, that's all I'm going to say at the moment. Thank you very much. Cheers.
Thank you. Absolute disgrace. Thank you very much, Paul. Thank you very much for everything. Right, we want to stand behind you regardless of what happens. Paul may not be able to speak, but we are able to speak. And we're going to say that nobody loses their job on their own. Nobody is allowed to stand on their own. We as trade unionists right across the country will be mobilising all the forces to force Kirklees Council to change their mind, to reinstate somebody whose only crime is being a good trade unionist. And that's something that he should be applauded for by a Labour Council, not sacked for. We will continue the fight. We will be having more meetings urgently in order to look at what to do to mobilise. there will be emergency motions, there will be messages of solidarity that you can send. You can do it via the Time for Real Change website at the moment, but we'll be sending more information out. It is a crime what they have done today, an absolute disgrace. But we know that people have been sacked before, and that isn't the end of trade unionism. That means that we have to work even harder to resist and fight. This will not go away. Paul will not go away. He is our union president. We stand by him, just like he stood by Unison members for the whole of his trade union career. Thank you, Paul, for everything. Thanks for it. Must be a very difficult position for you to be in now. Not easy for any of us to have stood in this position, but you know you are not on your own. You have the support of tens of thousands of trade unionists, and we won't let you go down. Okay. I'm going to take you to Nigel, who's going to make a statement.
Paul Holmes is the national president of Unison, the largest union with over 1.3 million members. He also branch secretary of the Kirklees Unison, a branch of over 10,000 members, has been branch secretary of the Kirklees Unison branch for 32 years. Paul has been a council employee for 48 years and a Unison steward for 46 years. He has a completely unblemished record in his 48 years with the council. The decision to dismiss him is completely indefensible. It follows him being suspended by the council for 2 years and 2 months. An investigation into the issue by a private consultant finished 18 months ago. Paul will not let this issue rest. He could have left the council quietly with 48 years service, but he is determined to clear his name and everyone know the real reasons behind his dismissal. The whole trade union movement needs to show solidarity with Paul. He's a member of the TUC General Council and national president of the UK's largest trade union. We have nothing else to say at the present, but we will make a more detailed statement in the next few days. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Anybody else got anything they want to say at this point? Anybody else got anything they want to say at this point? No? Right. Thank you very much. As I say, the fight goes on. Sorry. The fight goes on. We're not going away. Paul's not going away. We will continue to fight this battle. Thank you very much for all the solidarity we've shown today and over the last 2 years and 2 months. That's not going away, and we have to up our game. Thanks very much to all, and thanks for people who've organised this call and have come on it this morning. Cheers.
Yeah, I'd like to thank everybody for coming in support of Paul. I know we did have a few hands up before Karen came in. So does anybody want to come back in with the points they wanted to raise? George?
Just very quickly, thank you, Michael. Obviously, this is very disturbing news, shocking, but at one level, I'm afraid not surprising. Those of us, particularly in Unison, must do everything possible to ensure that the union backs an employment tribunal claim against unfair dismissal. And also, if at all possible, we should be fighting to have a branch-wide ballot in Kirklees of the members to take strike action in defense of Paul, the long-standing branch secretary. That's all I've got to say at this point. And I wish Paul the best of luck, obviously, and continued solidarity, not just from those of us on this call, but from hundreds and indeed thousands of decent Unison and other trade union activists around the country. Thank you.
Thank you, George. Andrea?
Thanks, Chair. As been said in this meeting, an injury to one is an injury to us all, and rather than our heads going down, our heads have got to go up now, and we have absolutely got to take this fight on. They've now, you know, they've cast the first stone now. They've cast the first stone many months ago. But this now is, I think Nick said it in his address, this is now the start of the campaign. We have got to start rooting out the absolute vileness of what's been going on. We have got to root it out, and we've got to fight now like never before, because the absolute existence of not just Paul, but our union and activists depend on it. So I would say we will all take a moment to kind of reflect on what's happened, that it was absolutely gutting to just hear Paul speak. You know, but the resolve now grow stronger together. Thank you. Solidarity.
Thank you. Irene? Irene Leonard, you there? You got your hand up?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, thank you. I'm a retired health professional, and I would like to reiterate and everything that Mary Whitby and others callers have said before. Obviously, we have to fight for Paul Holmes because he represents the later stage of the attack on working class organisation. And I agree, our unions sadly have sold us down the river over the years. I was in health for 30 years. I started off as a respected member of the team, as did everybody else. By the time I left, none of us were valued. And the unions didn't protect us any stage of that 30 years. I say that with regret. But having said that, I'm sure that all of the people here know that we have to have radical reform, and we have to take a lead, I think, from Sharon Games' leverage campaign, and we have to look at old traditional ways of resistance, but we have to supplement them with very modern ways of making people accountable. And that takes some fresh thinking, because we're in a new form of capitalism, and its traditional ways of organization and working are dying quickly. So it's a call to everybody to start communicating. I think one of the problems is that the unions represent our vehicle for communication. And while many of them are blocking our message to the rest of our working class comrades, then we must find new ways of organizing and getting together to overcome this barrier. Sorry if it sounds a bit incoherent. And feelings are going out to Paul. Bye now, sorry.
Thank you for your contribution. Kath?
Thanks, Chair. I just wanted to come in really towards the end of this call now, because I think people are saying that they need to go, and quite clearly with the, you know, we're taking the result in and thinking about what the next steps are going to be. I think, you know, the strength of the campaign around Paul is incredible, and as many people have referred to, this isn't an isolated case. This isn't by chance that this is happening. This is all linked to the struggles that we're all facing in our workplaces, and in the face of austerity, privatisation, and pay repression. And we need to coordinate and work together to stand up for our members if we're to make sure this union is worth its salt. Paul's the president, that's going to remain the case, and as has been mentioned, what we're going to be looking at now is not only the remedies that you would expect in this sort of case, so I'm sure that there will be legal remedies, but there will also be the organisational and political remedies that come through our union. So in your branch, in your service group, in conferences that are coming up, find the space to make the case for Paul. And as everyone has said, if they can go for somebody like Paul, who is the the elected leader of one of the biggest branches in our union, then what does it say about the rest? So this union needs to step up now and defend Paul Holmes and get him reinstated. Thank you everybody for coming. It's really incredible to see this level of support, both in person and online, from all sections of the union and from across the country. Thank you, well done, and we fight on.
Thank you, Kev. Did anybody else want to come in at this time? I know a lot of people have got to go. If not, then solidarity to everybody for coming, and to Paul. The fight isn't over. We will continue pushing forward, and I'll thank you again for everybody coming, and we'll end it there.
Thanks, Michael.
Thanks, Michael. Solidarity, comrades.
Thanks, everyone.
Solidarity.
Bye. Bye all. Keep up the fight.